Hi, friends. Just wanted to take a minute to share a reflection about yesterday, which was November 1st, which is on the Christian calendar, the day known as All Saints Day. And one of the things I've noticed is that for people like me, and I'm guessing for some of you, as our faith has changed, as we've gone through a composting and a decomposing of our faith, and it's been transformed, sometimes that creates sort of an awkward, tenuous relationship with our ancestors. I don't know if that's true for you, but it's definitely been true for me. This sort of idea, Hebrews talks about this cloud of witnesses, that they've ran their race and they've gone on and now they're cheering us on. That whole idea, like for so many of us, I think that there's a sort of a trickiness to that, in the sense that we know that for those of us who our faith has shifted, we know that our ancestors may not approve. I think about this all the time with my grandpa, my pop. He was a Free Will Baptist minister. And I know if he were sitting at this table with me right now and we were talking about our beliefs, that we would be so far apart on so many things. And I've carried that around, and that has been for me sort of this, like I'm exhilarated and excited by what I've learned and discovered over the years. But what do I do with that? What do I do with that sense that I have moved in a direction that my pop would never have moved? What do I do that? Because I want him to be part of my faith. I want him to be part of my life. I want him. It's been 20 some years he's been gone, and I miss him so much still. One of my favorite human beings ever on the planet, and one of the best. So what do? I want him as a part of my cloud of witnesses. And I bet some of you do as well. People, and maybe even people who are not gone on, people who are alive, who have expressed disappointment in you, who expressed, well, but in 1995 you didn't say that, or in 2010 you weren't saying that. You were saying something else. And what you know is that, of course you were, but now you've grown and changed. But what do we do with all that? And what do we do with that in ourselves? Because one of the things I've noticed is that as I think back over my 20 years in ministry, one of the things that really becomes clear is that early on, I said things that I deeply regret. I said things that hurt people. I said things that just weren't true, but I thought they were true, and so I was repeating them. What do you do with that? Like, what do you do with your own sort of baggage? Not even thinking about what everybody else would do with it. What do we do with our own sort of baggage? And one of the best images that I have stumbled upon for this involves technology. And I want to show you this little device. When we were moving last, I found this in a drawer and my oldest son was like, "What is that?" Right? Well, this is I think first generation video iPod. I had iPod fever when these things first came out, and I think it was 2005 maybe. For Christmas, I got this video iPod, and what was so impressive and incredible about it is, I'd grown up with portable music when I was a kid was a boombox, right? Portable music when I was a kid was eventually, when I was in high school, it was a Discman. But this thing right here would hold thousands and thousands of songs, and you could even store videos on this thing that you could then watch, like if you were taking a trip or you're bored, like whatever. This iPod. Now, when I showed this to my oldest, he looked at it like it was something from a bygone era, and in so many ways, that's exactly what it is. It is something from a bygone era, right? I don't even have a charger for this anymore because they've changed so much. But I found this video iPod, and I just can't let go of it. I thought about getting rid of it, thought about selling it. Who's going to buy it? But it represents something to me, because also every day of my life I carry this thing around, right? This phone connects me to the world. It connects me to you all. It connects me to information. It connects me to just about everything in the world. And it is sort of a mistake we make, I think, when we're like, this is amazing. We don't need this. And here's what I've come to learn and come to trust. That without the iPod, sometimes the Eastern Kentucky comes through, the iPod. Without the iPod, we never get the iPhone, right? Because what became the iPhone, this is the early stages. This is where it begins. This is where the idea begins to form. And it didn't take a very long time that we went from this to this, but here we are. And if we want the iPhone, if we want the newest and best of technology, then we have to understand that this is part of the process. And I've come to trust this in my relationship to my ancestors and my relationship to previous versions of me. that this has been an evolutionary process, a transformative process. That if I didn't begin here, I would never be here. If I didn't start somewhere, I would not be who I am today. And so I think there's part of us that we want to sort of cut ourselves off from different versions of ourselves, or even our ancestors who we know maybe wouldn't agree with us. And what if we just embraced that our ancestors, they were experiencing this too in their own time and place? And maybe they'll never get to the iPhone 50 or whatever, right? But they did what they did within their context. And that is what we are being invited to do, to grow and change, because everything that we want to be, right? Everything that we hope for, we may start here, but to get over here to this thing, to this little universe in your pocket, it had to start here. I think about it sometimes like the rings on a tree, right? Like you cut down a tree and there are all these rings. That's what it's like to be human. Because now at almost 40, it's not like the 15-year-old me ceased to exist. The 15-year-old me is part of the almost 40-year-old me. And some people would say maybe too much of a part, right? But there's this whole idea that we're separating ourselves from past versions of, and we live with this tension, not only with our ancestors, but with ourselves. And what I'm coming to learn is that in order, and somebody said this to me recently, you have to own all the Joshes. And what they meant by that is that if I spend my time and energy trying to distance myself from 15-year-old me, 22-year-old me, 34-year-old me, if I keep trying to distance myself, I'm actually losing part of myself, because I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't start somewhere. And my growth and transformation and all of that has been part of a necessary journey that has led me to where I am today. All the rings of the tree matter. All the versions of you matter. You've got to own all the yous. Because when we begin to own all the yous and us's and we's, when we begin to own all of that, then we can really begin to move forward. Then we can really start to imagine what's next. Because if we're continually trying to distance ourselves from something in the past, in the past version of us, past saints and clouds of, if we keep trying to distance ourselves from those things, then we're never really taking the next steps forward. So on this All Saints Day, I'm choosing to celebrate the goodness that my ancestors brought into the world, to celebrate their experiences. I'm also choosing not to take all of their explanations. I'm choosing to say that they were doing the best with what they had probably in their own context. But if I were to just continue to pass down those same beliefs and assumptions, I wouldn't be doing my part. What I would be doing is saying, hey, we got the iPod and that's all we really need. And I think in each generation, it is incumbent upon us to not just say, well, this is what we were given, it's all we really need. But it's incumbent upon us to ask the question, okay, what is next? What is the next step for this? What is the next step for me as a human being? What is the next step for the Christian tradition? Because one of the things that's happened over the years, the Christian tradition has always been in a state of change and flux. There was never this perfectly uniform, pure monolith of what it meant to be Christian. There still isn't. So as we think through what does it mean to be Christian moving forward, right? That the faith is going to change, the tradition is going to change. And that's not bad, and that's not to be feared. That is a natural part of human beings learning, growing, having experiences, offering the best explanations they can and moving forward. I do not want my kids and grandkids and great-grandkids, I do not want them to feel like they are stuck with my explanations that seem outdated and unhelpful to them. What I hope they will do is see the journey and see the process and open themselves up to being a part of that in their time, in their place, and in their context. And if we do that, not only do we honor our ancestors who did the same thing, but we leave a better world for our future generations. And we leave them an example that says the right thing to do is not to just clutch and hold on to previous versions of something because you're limiting yourself. The right thing to do is to be inspired by the previous versions, to then dream up what the next thing looks like. And on this All Saints Day, I hope that we're celebrating and honoring those who lived well and faithfully before us. And I also hope we're wondering how we are going to live and what we are going to do so that when we are gone, future generations look back and say, gosh, their explanations weren't always right, but I am moved by their experiences and I want to have my own. So, happy Monday. Grace and peace be with you.